Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you to the most important international event of the moment, the 8th Conference on the Oceans, Our Oceans. My name is Paloma Avila and I'm a scientific journalist, and it's a great honor to be your host for this event. The ocean is intrinsically connected with our experience of the world, influencing our climate, our air, our food, our energy, and more. Yet for many people, particularly those who live away from the coast, what is happening underwater beyond our shores feels too far away to contemplate or care about. But re-establishing the vital connection between our culture, our coastlines, and a sense of shared responsibility for what happens in our ocean is critically for a sustainable future. We know it. In these days, we will hear 1,300 people, a lot of people, who have dedicated their lives to conserving our oceans. We will speak about the oceanic connections we carry, and they will tell us more about challenges facing marine conservation and their hopes for the future. This year, the chosen theme is Our Ocean, Our Connection. It is not a coincidence our planet Earth has been popularly named the Blue Planet. And it's pretty obvious when we understand that the ocean covers more than 70% of its surface. Science has shown us that the ocean provides food, oxygen, and finally, life on Earth. So here we are, traveling from different latitudes, meeting at this point in time for what we believe is a transcendental event where actions and policies that guarantee the protection of oceans, the responsible management of marine resources, and sustainable economic growth will be shared. In short, an extraordinary meeting between governments, NGOs, entrepreneurs, communities, and citizens to protect our seas. To start this important meeting, please welcome our artists. This culture experience will bring you different Panama flavors. Self-sustainable fashion made by students of the Fashion Design School of the University of Panama. The special musical piece performed by the Panama artist Patricia Blick, and the folklore ballet of José Alberto Sosa. And finally, Fiesta Panameña, performed by folklore dance studio director for Odette Cortés and Rafael Chong, with the musical direction of Ormelis Cortés and his folkloric music group. Let's receive them with a huge applause.
Pides silencio porque olvidas que estoy hecha de tierra y sonido. Tú me pides silencio porque mi voz se eleva con el viento a otros oídos. Tú me pides silencio porque mi canción llena desbordada los rincones. Tú me pides silencio porque olvidas que viven en mis venas estos sones. Y es que nací en una tierra donde se oye el grito de los tambores y canta una voz de acero a repicar repicadores. porque mi canto rompe las quietudes de la noche. Tú me pides silencio, porque mi voz se eleva cuando callan otras voces. Tú me pides silencio, porque no hay madrugada que contenga mi alegría. Tú me pides silencio, porque olvidas que viven en mi sangre melodías. Y es que nací en una tierra donde el aire es fuente de armonía. A donde está una copla, llévame al tambor de la alegría. Y es que nací en una tierra con susurro de hojas en el viento, donde se escucha el llamado a tambores, vengan serenos. Ven a recorrer mi tierra para comprenderlo.
Conmigo siempre, la que hasta la eternidad. No te prometo que nunca
Another applause. How's the energy now? We are ready to dance with the sea. So, to begin the opening ceremony, we are pleased to welcome Her Excellency Janaína Tiwani Mencomo, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama.
Excelentísimo señor Laurentino Cortizo Cohen, presidente de la República de Panamá. Excelentísimo señor Surángel Whips, presidente de la República de Palaos. Su Excelencia Sitiveni Rabuka, primer ministro de la República de Fiji. Su Excelencia Ursel Arends, viceprimer ministro de Aruba, Países Bajos. Su Excelencia María Eugenia López Arias, magistrada, presidenta de la Corte Suprema de Justicia. Su Excelencia Milciades Concepción, ministro de Ambiente de la República de Panamá. Sus Excelencias ministros y viceministros de Estado nacionales e internacionales. Honorable señor Juan Monterrey, director de la Escuela de Liderazgo, Biocultura, Geodiversidad. Enviado especial John Kerry, gracias por estar aquí. Sus Excelencias jefes de misiones diplomáticas y organismos internacionales acreditados en Panamá. Bienvenidos al Centro de Convenciones de Amador de la ciudad de Panamá, donde hoy, por fin, finaliza la cuenta atrás para la 8ª edición de la Conferencia de Océano más anticipada a nivel global. Our Ocean, Our Connection 2023. Es un honor para nosotros los panameños recibir al mundo en esta conferencia. Serán 2 intensos pero enriquecedores días de paneles y discusiones con expertos de todas las áreas oceánicas, líderes de gobiernos, filántropos, académicos y sobre todo con jóvenes líderes de todo el planeta. Jóvenes líderes de todo el planeta. Y aquí quiero hacer un énfasis especial en los jóvenes. Cuenta la historia que el gran Aristóteles le dijo a su no menos gran pupilo, Alejandro Magno: espera, aún no deberías participar en las batallas. A lo que Alejandro respondió: si espero, perderé la audacia de la juventud. Como mujer joven, yo tampoco quiero esperar, pues cuando hablamos de los efectos del cambio climático, son nuestras poblaciones más vulnerables las más afectadas. Y quiero aquí entonces aprovechar para enviarle un saludo fraternal y mi máximo respeto y admiración a nuestro pueblo de la etnia indígena Guna. Su comunidad de Cartí Subduc será la primera desplazada en América Latina por el alza de los niveles del agua causados por el cambio climático. Ellos tampoco pueden esperar. Esta batalla es de ellos, pero también nuestra, porque es de todos también. Agradezco a los países presentes, a todos los que han hecho posible que hoy podamos abrir esta conferencia, con la esperanza de un mejor mañana a través del cuidado sostenible de nuestro océano, un recurso más que valioso. Estoy convencida de que hoy y mañana lograremos este cometido durante estos 2 días. Suerte a todos y que en las sumas y restas gane siempre el mañana. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Madam Minister, for your words. To continue with the opening program, we are happy to give the floor to Mr. Juan Monterrey, Director of Geoversity's Biocultural Leadership School.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates. My message today is very short. Our oceans are dying. This conference cannot be just another diplomatic spectacle. Young people demand concrete actions from you, our leaders, but you're simply not doing enough. To the credit of my government, someone under 35 was invited to address this plenary. Taking that responsibility seriously, I took time to reflect on my 9 years of experience as an international policymaker. I consulted accomplished leaders, many of them very young and associated with my organization, Geoversity. We are nature's university. Their courage moved me to go beyond the norms of diplomatic correctness and speak their truth, our truth, my truth. So I will now outline the demands that we have for you to fix the ocean health crisis. So please listen up. Firstly, we must get rid of pernicious fishing subsidies. I won't name names, but if your country has these subsidies, you're simply not doing enough. Fishing subsidies are fueling overfishing, which in turn destroys marine ecosystems. Fix it. Secondly, we must eliminate fossil fuel subsidies. If we don't get the climate crisis under control, we might have to wish our oceans goodbye, and we will not allow it. In little over 5 years, we must do everything we didn't do in the past 30 years. And why didn't we do it? Why couldn't we do it? Because our leaders keep putting profits over oceans and planet. Why we could not achieve that goal? Because we keep putting on diplomatic and corporate spectacles that are full of words, insufficient commitments, and even less action. Because we have a global deficit of leadership. On this note, Mr. President Cortizo, I would like to thank you very much for your invitation for me to speak here. And I would also like to apologize because I might break diplomacy a little bit with my next statements. Ladies and gentlemen, it is utterly repulsive that world leaders have accepted the fact that an oil boss will be the president of the next climate conference. Not even Hollywood's best screenwriters could come up with a plot as ridiculous as this. Come on. And our leaders of the global north, which have the most leverage, did not even push back a little bit. In fact, most of you praise him. I saw your tweets. This cannot go any longer. That is not the way to protect our oceans. Thirdly, we must enact a global moratorium on deep sea mining. If your country is not supporting this moratorium, you are not leading. You are not doing enough. In fact, you're stealing our future. You're stealing my future. In fact, you are selling out once again. The extraction of minerals from the seafloor will have a profound long-term impact on biodiversity and marine ecosystems, particularly in the region where you're at right now, Central America, which is already one of the most at risk due to rising oceans. It is unacceptable that so-called leaders justify this practice, even if it is for rare minerals to push the green transition and electric mobility. Folks, renewable energies are not renewable if the cost is the utter destruction of our oceans. Renewable energies are not renewable if the cost is our own survival. How the heck can we even think about deep sea mining when we know almost nothing about the deep sea? In fact, we might know more about the moon than the deep sea. So don't let it happen. My hope is that here in Panama, the land that bridges between two oceans, more governments and corporations will announce their support for the moratorium of deep sea mining. It needs to happen here at our oceans in Panama. And if it doesn't happen, honestly, I don't know what you came here for. I am proud to say that Panama is leading the effort on this front, and we are ready to help you and keep moving forward. And on that, I would like to congratulate the President and the Minister of Foreign Affairs for leading this effort. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the three demands I have outlined are a must to avoid the death of our oceans, to avoid the death of our civilization. We young people will not allow your greed and your short-sightedness to put the health of our oceans and our future at risk. Enough with posturing. Get a spine. And if you don't have a spine, move out of the way. And if you don't move, trust me, we will replace you in the ballot box. Before leaders drown us on a dead ocean, we will take charge. Just 3 days ago, for example, a bill that proposed a complete ban on shark finning and its commercialization in Panama was introduced at our National Assembly. This bill was presented by Panama's youngest MP, Juan Diego Vázquez. Señor Presidente, I look forward to our government pushing our full support behind this effort. It is the right thing to do, and it is a prime example of what young leadership looks like. So let's make it happen. Our recent decision to present my organization, Geoversity, as Nations University was grounded in over 20 years of hard-won experience working on restoration, reforestation, and youth leadership development from our 5,000-hectare rainforest campus here in Panama. It is with great humility and urgency that I conclude with the most important teachings that we have gained from Mother Nature during those years of struggle and growth. Evolve or die. And remember, our gold is blue. Thank you very much.
Or thanks for his profound words, is that a good adjective? To the director. Now, His Excellency Milciades Concepcion, Minister of Environment of the Republic of Panama, is going to speak to this select auditorium of the Panama Convention Center.
Excelentísimo señor Presidente de la República de Panamá, Laurentino Cortizo Cuen, y me sumo a los saludos de nuestra canciller para todas las autoridades, personalidades y a todos los aquí presentes. El Istmo de Panamá es un país que emergió del océano creando un puente para la biodiversidad terrestre y generando un cambio en el comportamiento de los mares. Somos un país en el que el 82% de su jurisdicción es océano, característica que lo hace totalmente dependiente de él. Desde el Canal de Panamá hasta nuestras pesquerías sostenibles, el turismo sostenible, lo que crea un efecto derrame en la economía de nuestras comunidades. Es por esto que Panamá cree y es responsable de sus costas y todo lo que ellas involucran, y se ha comprometido con proteger y revertir los efectos que los humanos le hemos ocasionado al océano. Representamos uno de los pocos países en cumplir la meta Aichi 11, llegando al 13% de protección de nuestra zona económicamente exclusiva en el año 2015. También cumplimos la meta del nuevo marco mundial de la biodiversidad post-2020. Esto lo hicimos 2 años antes de su aprobación, cuando en el 2021 expandimos la superficie de cordillera de Coiba, llegando al 30.5% de nuestro océano bajo protección, sustentado en los aportes que nos ha proporcionado la ciencia y como muestra de nuestro compromiso en el cumplimiento de los convenios internacionales. En este sentido, quiero enviar un mensaje a todos los gobiernos y sus negociadores que se encuentran en la última ronda de negociación en Nueva York para la aprobación del Tratado de Áreas fuera de la jurisdicción. El mundo tiene el ojo puesto en ustedes. Necesitamos el Tratado de Alcalá para conservar nuestro océano y para contar con el marco legal que nos permitirá llegar a ese 30% de océanos protegidos a nivel mundial. Como líderes azul, en vías de implementar la política nacional de océanos, no nos conformamos con solo cumplir con la meta a través de un valor numérico absoluto, sino que también queremos establecer parámetros de calidad que establezcan que parte de nuestras áreas protegidas sean altamente protegidas, como lo es la cordillera de Coiba, la cual tiene 2/3 de su superficie en protección absoluta. Es importante considerar la protección de especies específicas, como las especies migratorias y los depredadores tope, como los tiburones. En noviembre del año pasado, en la COP19 de la Convención sobre el Comercio Internacional de Fauna y Flora Silvestre, CITES, hicimos historia logrando listar más de 100 especies de tiburones en sus apéndices, lo que significa que más del 90% del mercado de aletas de tiburones está bajo la regulación de CITES, lo que marca un hito en la historia de la Convención. Hicimos historias todos los países del mundo, que a su vez rompió el récord en especies listadas, mostrando el compromiso del mundo frente a la lucha contra la pérdida de la biodiversidad. El Istmo de Panamá también es una ruta para gigantes, ruta de enormes ballenas jorobadas que llegan todos los años desde el norte y el sur y utilizan nuestras aguas tropicales para aparearse y reproducirse. Por ello también, en alianza con los pescadores de la región, cuadriplicamos el tamaño del refugio de vida silvestre Isla Iguana hacia las áreas donde se reúnen estas ballenas secuestradoras de carbono y donde también prohibimos artes de pesca que puedan afectarla, como son las grandes redes de enmalle. Conservar estas especies y ecosistemas asociados son claves para que estos contribuyan con la mitigación del cambio climático. Los efectos de la triple crisis planetaria lo estamos viviendo en todos nuestros países. Nuestras comunidades de la comarca de Gunayala, en Panamá, son las primeras comunidades indígenas que se consideran desplazados climáticos por el aumento del nivel del mar. Por lo que hacemos un llamado a incrementar los esfuerzos para las soluciones basadas en la naturaleza, que son el futuro para la salud de los ecosistemas, como arrecifes del coral, pastos marinos, manglares, los cuales son ecosistemas clave frente al cambio climático. Tenemos una estrategia que sustenta la protección de los mares, implementando desde la expansión de áreas marinas protegidas, la aprobación de planes de manejo, la nueva Estrategia Nacional del Ambiente, la Política Nacional de Océanos, el establecimiento de un centro interinstitucional para la vigilancia de nuestros mares y también hemos aprobado 17 normas directamente relacionadas con el océano. El centro de vigilancia lo conforman todas las instituciones que tienen injerencia en el tema y comparte la misma meta de detener la contaminación y pesca ilegal en nuestros mares. Este centro de manejo de las áreas marinas protegidas utilizando tecnología de punta. También hemos iniciado una transformación para implementar nuestro compromiso 30 por 30 y más, el cual comenzó realizando talleres en comunidades locales en todo el país, donde participaron ONGs, el sector privado y la academia para escuchar sus ideas e integrar sus perspectivas sobre los desafíos y oportunidades relacionadas con la protección y conservación de la naturaleza. Para reafirmar este compromiso con la naturaleza, Panamá se sumó a Bolivia, Nueva Zelanda, Bangladesh, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia y México, entre otros países que han emitido o promulgado leyes o reformado constituciones reconociendo los derechos jurídicos de la naturaleza. Desde hace un año, Panamá cuenta con la Ley de Derechos de la Naturaleza, constituyéndose en una nueva herramienta para combatir el daño ecológico que causamos los humanos. Cada acción verde cuenta y así hemos seguido avanzando. Ayer iniciamos la consulta pública para la creación del refugio de vida silvestre de Saboga en el archipiélago de Las Perlas, otra nueva área marina para Panamá que reforzará la zona de manejo marino costero de Las Perlas, en un área importante para especies en peligro crítico de extinción como las tortugas carey, tiburones y aves migratorias. Nuestros esfuerzos para la protección y conservación y uso sostenible de los recursos no solamente se ejecutan a nivel nacional, sino que también estamos aportando acciones a nivel regional a través de la iniciativa del Corredor Marino del Pacífico Este Tropical CEMAR, de la cual tenemos desde el mes pasado la Presidencia y la Secretaría Pro Tempore, generando acciones importantes con los socios de la región, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Colombia, para asegurar el fortalecimiento de esta iniciativa que viene trabajando fuertemente desde el año 2004. Hoy tengo el orgullo de anunciar que Panamá no va a detenerse en solo tener bajo algún nivel de protección el 30% de su zona económica exclusiva, sino que aquí, en este momento, y frente a más de 400 personas de todo el mundo, líderes azules mundiales, junto a su excelencia Laurentino Cortizo Cuen, presidente de la República de Panamá, firmará el decreto ejecutivo que amplía el área de recursos manejados de Banco Volcán, la cual incrementará de 14.201 kilómetros cuadrados, que es la superficie actual, a una superficie de 93.390 kilómetros cuadrados, lo que representa un incremento de 79.178 kilómetros cuadrados, por lo que a partir del día de hoy, a través de esta conferencia y el acto que va a firmar seguidamente el señor presidente Laurentino Cortizo Cuen, anunciamos que la República de Panamá estará conservando el 54.33% de su zona económicamente exclusiva. Algunas personalidades del mundo nos preguntan cómo Panamá ha logrado ser carbono negativo, contar con el 68% de sus bosques. En el 2019 teníamos el 65% de nuestros bosques, en el 2019. En el 2022 incrementamos al 3% y llegamos al 68%. También que hasta ahora hemos protegido el 30% de nuestros océanos. Y mi respuesta a todos estos líderes mundiales ha sido: gracias a la decisión y voluntad política del presidente Laurentino Cortizo Cuen, su equipo de gobierno en conjunto con la sociedad civil, la empresa privada, la academia, la ciencia y la investigación. Gracias, señor presidente, por permitir y hacer eco del artículo 118 de la Constitución, que los panameños nos debemos un derecho sano, un ambiente sano. Así que nos sentimos muy orgullosos del equipo de trabajo del país, que estamos trabajando en un norte para salvar el planeta Tierra, contribuyendo dentro de nuestro territorio lo que tenemos que hacer todos los países del mundo. Si Panamá pudo, todos podemos, y en conjuntos lograremos proteger nuestro océano. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Minister, for your words, and please stay with us on the stage.
Gracias, Paloma. Seguidamente invitamos al excelentísimo señor Laurentino Cortizo Cuen al escenario principal para la firma del decreto ejecutivo que amplía los límites del área protegida área de recursos manejados, Banco Volcán, y modifica algunas disposiciones del Decreto Ejecutivo número 2 del 22 de septiembre del 2015. Como bien ha indicado el señor ministro, este decreto ejecutivo amplía el área de recursos manejados de Banco Volcán, la cual incrementará de 14.201.13 kilómetros cuadrados, que es la superficie actual, a una superficie de 93.390.0 kilómetros cuadrados, lo que representa un incremento de 79.178.71 kilómetros cuadrados, por lo que a partir de hoy, a través de esta conferencia, anunciamos que la República de Panamá estará conservando el 54.33% de zona económica exclusiva. Procedemos a la firma. Firma Su Excelencia Milciades Concepción, Ministro de Ambiente. Firma el excelentísimo señor Laurentino Cortizo Cohen, Presidente de la República de Panamá. Ha sido firmado el decreto ejecutivo que amplía los límites del área protegida. Muchas gracias, señor ministro, señor presidente. Agradecemos al señor presidente se mantenga en el escenario para escuchar su mensaje a la audiencia. Con ustedes, el señor presidente de la República de Panamá, Laurentino Cortizo Cohen.
Excelentísimo señor Suranguel Whips Jr., Presidente de Palaos, Su Excelencia Sitebeni Lugamamada Rebuka, Primer Ministro de Fiji, Su Excelencia Ursel Arens, Vicepresidente, Ministro de Países Bajos, Su Excelencia María Eugenia López Arias, Presidenta de la Corte Suprema de Justicia de la República de Panamá, Honorable Diputada Kaira Harding Bart, Primera Vicepresidenta de la Asamblea Nacional, Su Excelencia Yanaína Tehuani, Ministra de Relaciones Exteriores de Panamá, Su Excelencia Milciades Concepción, Ministro de Ambiente, Honorable señor John Kerry, Enviado Presidencial Especial de los Estados Unidos de América para el Clima, Sus Excelencias Ministros, Viceministros y jefes de misiones diplomáticas y organismos internacionales que asisten a la 8ª edición de la conferencia Our Ocean 2023. Honorable señor Juan Monterrey, Director Ejecutivo de la Escuela de Liderazgo Biocultural Fundación University. Distinguidos panelistas y delegados de la 8ª edición de la conferencia Our Ocean 2023. Señores de los medios de comunicación nacional e internacional, invitados especiales, señoras y señores, muy buenos días. En nombre de la República de Panamá, le doy un caluroso saludo de bienvenida a nuestro país, punto de encuentro y cruce de caminos donde convergen el Océano Pacífico, y el Mar Caribe. Nos honra servir de anfitriones para la celebración de la 8ª edición de esta importante conferencia internacional donde los países del mundo sostenemos conversaciones francas, repito, francas, con el propósito de comprometernos con acciones concretas para la preservación y el fortalecimiento de la vida en el océano. Durante estos 2 días de diálogo, renovaremos nuestros compromisos con nuevos enfoques para continuar la lucha por la protección de nuestro océano, que es la base de la supervivencia del planeta y de la vida de los más de 8.000 millones de seres humanos que lo habitamos. En esta angosta franja de tierra que ocupa nuestro país, surgida de los mares hace unos 60 millones de años, existe una rica y abundante biodiversidad de fauna y flora terrestre y marítima. Este es un privilegio que nos compromete con la preservación de nuestros recursos naturales y con el desarrollo sostenible en todos los aspectos de la actividad humana. La relación histórica de nuestro pequeño istmo con el océano se profundizó con la construcción del Canal de Panamá, que sirve al mundo con las conexiones marítimas que agilizan el intercambio comercial y propician el desarrollo común de nuestras naciones. Por el Canal de Panamá pasa alrededor del 6% del comercio mundial. Señoras y señores, el compromiso de Panamá con la vida en el planeta es real, inequívoco, contundente, y lo demuestran las acciones y decisiones que hemos tomado como país. Estamos junto a Bután y Surinam en el grupo de los 3 únicos países declarados carbono negativo en el mundo. Durante nuestra administración hemos asumido los compromisos de la Agenda 2030 y los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. Además, hemos priorizado la expansión de áreas marinas protegidas, en especial en la protección y conectividad del corredor marino del Pacífico Este tropical, trabajando en coordinación con nuestros países vecinos para propiciar la protección transnacional de los recursos marinos y acciones contra la pesca ilegal. Asimismo, Panamá sigue una línea estratégica de participación en los espacios multilaterales para oponerse a la pesca ilegal, no declarada, no reglamentada. Señoras y señores, Panamá es consciente de la importancia del océano. En ese sentido, en el 2021 logramos la protección de más del 30% de nuestro océano, cumpliendo anticipadamente la meta de la iniciativa 30 por 30. Como una muestra más de compromiso de la República de Panamá con el medio ambiente y el océano, y dentro del marco de esta importante conferencia, acabamos de firmar el decreto ejecutivo que crea el área protegida de Banco Volcán en el Caribe panameño, incrementando así su superficie hasta 93.390 kilómetros, es decir, 6 veces más de su tamaño original. Confío en que este espacio de diálogo fortalezca la cooperación entre gobiernos, sector privado, sociedad civil, organizaciones no gubernamentales y los activistas que nos acompañan hoy, con quienes compartimos una misma ambición: avanzar en la impostergable misión de custodia de la biodiversidad del planeta. Acordemos los compromisos compartidos, fijemos propósitos claros y estrategias efectivas, no solo en el aspecto político, sino también en el cumplimiento de las acciones y los apoyos financieros que constituyen una inversión en el futuro del océano, en el futuro de la vida sobre el planeta, en el futuro de nuestras vidas y las vidas de futuras generaciones. Panamá está siempre dispuesta a participar activamente por la supervivencia de nuestro océano, nuestro planeta y la humanidad. Es el único camino de vida que nos queda. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, after having listened to the special message of His Excellency Laurentino Cortizo Cohen, President of the Republic of Panama, we are preparing for the official photography that will record for posterity the inauguration of the 8th Conference on the Oceans, Our Ocean. We invite all the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Environment to the stage. Thank you all for being part of this important moment. The picture is always to remember we have of everything, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. We invite you to go to your seats. We are going to continue this opening day of our ocean, our connection. Thank you, Mr. President. Now we want to share with all of you a brief video about the announcement that the President of Panama has done. So we're going to see the video now.
Uniting the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean basins and bridging the northern and southern hemispheres. Connection is at the heart of who we are. Panama is more than 80% ocean, one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet, with a rich cultural heritage that is inseparable from nature. This is why we believe it is our responsibility to steward and protect our natural resources, for the sake of our traditions, our economies, our wildlife, and our people, past, present, and future. Not just for Panama, but for all of Central America and beyond. Our blue planet is full of wonder, but dependent on a delicate balance that's facing an increasingly uncertain future. And yet, piece by piece, we can still protect and rebuild, and give our shared ocean a chance. But only if we act now. Panama may be a small nation, but we believe in taking big actions for people and nature. We have already established more than 30 marine protected areas. In 2015, we surpassed the Aichi 11 target by protecting 13.5% of our territorial waters. In 2021, we expanded the Cordillera de Coiba protected area, surpassing the 30 by 30 goal 9 years before the deadline. And working closely with our neighbors, created the largest network of MPAs in the Western Hemisphere, critical to the survival of highly migratory and endangered species. But we know it's not enough. So with great excitement, amongst a room full of blue leaders, we are proud to once again show our commitment to protecting our shared ocean by expanding the size of the Banco Volcan Marine Protected Area, creating one of the largest protected areas in the Caribbean Sea, strengthening the Greater Caribbean MPA network, and protecting more than 50% of our total marine area. Our journey has only just begun. There is so much we can do together. Join us. Be bold in your actions for the ocean, for our people, for our planet, for our ocean.
Very good news to start, no? Our ocean is the result of an interinstitutional alliance and an international event in which the administration of President Laurentino Cortizo Cohen will share actions and policies that guarantee the protection of the oceans, the responsible management of marine resources, and sustainable economic growth. To present the first high-level opening panel with the theme Global Action as an Effective Response. Developing approach for effective action among countries is a key requirement for promoting ocean stewardship. We welcome actions, solutions, and new policies among different actors to strengthen partnership towards achieving our ocean sustainability goals and enhancing our networking capabilities for such purposes. We are pleased to introduce the next panel's participants. Her Excellency Janaína Tiwane Menkomo, Minister of Foreign Affairs. His Excellency John F. Kerry, United States Special Presidential Climate Envoy. His Excellency Surajel Whips, Head of States of Palau. His Excellency Sitiveni Rabuka, Prime Minister of Fiji. Please, Madam Minister, the stage is yours.
Thank you everyone. I'm very excited for the news that the Ministry of Environment has shared with all of us. Panama is definitely committed to protect our ocean. I would like to just give a very informal talk about the first thing we need to be clear is that the fact that we are here gathered to discuss one of the most important global commons. And what is a global common? It's, as you might know, the global commons are domains. Those domains exist outside the sovereign jurisdiction of any one nation, but upon which all depends. The ocean is a global common. The seabed, the atmosphere, the outer space, the cyberspace, even the Antarctica is a global common. Now, which one is the global common by excellence or par excellence? It's the high sea, which is the subject of the Our Ocean Conference. But a conference focused on the conservation of one of the global commons does not exist in a vacuum. The atmosphere, another of the global common, is also very intimately linked to oceans and to planet's forests. Planet's forests can also be considered, global commons, even if they are within the jurisdiction of one sovereign state. So then, I want to go back a little bit again to history. And Aristotle, long time ago, used to say that that which is common to the greatest number gets the least amount of care. So men pay most attention to what is their own. They care less for what is common. And this concept reminds me of what's called, in the 19th century probably, the concept of the tragedy of the commons, which is a concept developed by British economist William Foster Lloyd. And then it was popularized by the ecologist Gareth Hardin in the 60s. So this tragedy of the commons is what? The tragedy of the commons is that while many of us benefit from the common, no one is responsible for it. So each person's indifference has very little effect, but everyone's collective indifference will destroy this common. So what to do about it? How can Panama avoid or eliminate the tragedy of the global commons? The American political scientist Elinor Ostrom was the first woman to win the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science precisely for her work in the field of governance and administration of the commons. And Ostrom, she demonstrated that the commons can be effectively managed by its own users. Now coming back to 2023, why is this situation, this common, this global common, this concept of managing, administering something that we all share, why is this relevant? I think we're going through the era of the commons. An era in which actual global cooperation is the biggest challenge. As of now, right now, we are witnessing the accelerating collapse of this Westphalian idea of the discrete state and the discrete political entity, each one enclosed in its own little world. And it seems that we are at the moment, in this current world affairs and geopolitics, in a moment when the essential ideas that govern statecraft must change now, because we are in the era of the commons. Now Panama, specifically Panama. Panama is a country, and I've always mentioned this because Panama is allied with geography. Our biggest friend is geography. Therefore, this country divides itself to unite the oceans and benefit all. And as such, that intimacy and that relation with geography creates a hypersensitivity to any geographic and climate change. For instance, events like Arctic ice meltdown are at a level of geopolitical impact like that of the opening of the Panama Canal. The geography of the world will change if that happens. It's happening already. And for Panama, it will be an existential change. Why? Because this change aims directly at our essence and raison d'être as a country. For instance, we just mentioned the Gardi subduct community in the Gunayala comarca. People will be the first community displaced. But let's not beyond that, beyond the level of the sea. What would happen if the Arctic ice meltdown finally happens? We could talk about also the change in shipping routes, and how those shipping routes, new shipping routes, will affect our position in the world. So it seems to be very, very challenging for Panama. So in this context, Panama must take the lead also, and we have the moral grounds to take the lead to prevent the tragedy of the commons from happening. Not only with respect to the ocean, which are our reason for being as a country, and on which our existence as a viable geopolitical entity depends, but with respect to all the global commons, including others like the forests. Now, I made the connection before with the jungles and forests. Today, we have an unfolding crisis also in our most sacred jungle, the Darien. It was it's a virgin or untouched jungle. But it's been transformed slowly, because that virgin forest, beautiful, sacred forest, has become the avenue from migrants that are going to another place, to the north. And what happened is that every year we might get an increase. So what will happen to that common that is linked intimately to the atmosphere, to the oceans? For that, we also request and call for multilateral cooperation and coordination between countries. And despite the fact that maybe, now that the artificial intelligence is very popular, when I was writing and trying to prepare for this, I was thinking, what will ChatGPT think about migration flows? So I wrote, can migration flows be considered global commons? This is what it has to say. While irregular migration flows might not fit the traditional definition of global commons, they can be considered a global issue that require international cooperation and coordination to effectively manage and address the challenges associated with it. So it seems that even artificial intelligence seems to get it, and we don't. So definitely, and just to conclude, a managed common is not automatically subject to the tragic fate of the unmanaged common. Therefore, it's our turn to make it happen. This cannot be managed only on its own. We need to get together, coordinate, and see our challenges together. I think the choice will be between growth and death. And let's side with life. Let's avoid another tragedy of the commons. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your talk, Minister. Please welcome now John F. Kerry, United States Special Presidential Envoy for Climate.
Thank you very much, Paloma. Good morning to all distinguished guests, ministers, Mr. President Cortizo-Cohen, my friend, Minister Tawani, thank you for all your incredible efforts. I want to extend, and I think I do this for everybody, our great gratitude to all of our hosts and to Panama itself. Thank you for your tireless work to help host this conference, to pull all the pieces together. And thank you for sharing your extraordinary, historic maritime nation with us. I really can't think of a better place to be for this conference for many reasons. I'm also delighted to join this session with President Whips, who did such a great job, and with Palau, which set a great example, and we were delighted to co-host with Palau. Thank you, Palau, for the job that you did. Prime Minister Rabuka, other distinguished leaders from countries around the world. We are here to talk about what is arguably, and hopefully not too arguably, the most significant challenge that humans have ever faced on a global basis. All of us, simultaneously, together. Again and again, I have personally made the point, and others also, that the climate crisis and the ocean crisis are really one and the same. We cannot fully address one without the other. It is, very simply put, the crisis of air, the crisis of the ocean. 51% of the oxygen that we breathe, at least today, comes from the ocean. And we have parts of the ocean where there are dead zones, where nothing grows, where there is no oxygen, in more than 500 different parts of this planet. We face a crisis of the choices that we make. Not all of us individually, but yes, in many ways still individually, by what we buy, how we live, the choices we make on a daily basis. And the crisis that we face today on the global biome is a crisis that comes from unabated emissions. Let's put it simply. This isn't some rocket science required interpretation. This is not something that still eludes us. This is not something that's hard to figure out. The crisis we face of potentially so polluting this planet that we can't restore it, or going beyond tipping points that we can't come back from, that crisis is caused by unabated emissions from fossil fuels that burn so that we can propel our vehicles, heat our homes, light our businesses. It's how we choose to provide energy to our communities around the world. And it is how we don't choose, but simply allow choices that were made years ago to continue because it's easier, or because business as usual is better, makes more money, because people don't want to embrace the possibilities of a future, which are in fact cleaner, healthier, and safer in every single respect. Now, I loved the comments of the young fellow who was here. His voice was critical to hear here today. And the comments that he made are so many ones that all of us would join in every respect. But the one thing I might sort of hold out hope for and differ with him on is that our friends in the UAE are deeply committed to trying to change the equation and have been working to do that for so many years. And I personally know this new president, Sultan Al Jaber, who has been leading the deployment of renewables in the UAE, who has been part of a process that has been investing globally in renewables for years, and that has already deployed renewables in their own country. My friends, I believe it's important for us to understand that to get this job done, we have to be inclusive, and we need to get the fossil fuel industry to change its own choices and join other fossil fuel companies that have decided they're going to be energy companies, not oil companies. That's how we will define the future, by coming together to make these critical choices together. And the truth is, my friends, these choices that we've been making about how we drive our economies, time is running out. And the science is what tells us that. Not John Kerry, not President Biden, not any of the ministers who are here. Science, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, all of them on a factual basis are screaming to us about the choices we face. My friends, today we unequivocally share a world in which more frequent and powerful hurricanes occur, and typhoons destroy homes, businesses, communities, and cost us billions and trillions in the ultimate in order simply to restore order, to put the pieces back together. How insane is it to keep repeating things that we know are destroying our ability to enjoy a future and pass this world on to our children in a form that we should? You know that, I know that. The fact is that it's simple science. Why are there more intense storms? Why are there greater floods? Because 90% of the heating of the planet goes into the ocean. And as the water heats, it produces more moisture, which goes up into the atmosphere and falls in the form of these storms. And the intensity of the storms is greater because of the warmth and the gradient disparities in what produces the force of the wind and the intensity of a storm. So we are living now in a world where rainforests are burning, where the tundra of Russia was burning, where Australia, the US, California, other places, Indonesia, see fires that burn out of control and destroy unbelievable amounts of forest that we need to consume the CO2, and that in turn puts more pollution into the atmosphere. We're living in a world where 10 million people a year are now dying from extreme heat, where 15 million people a year are dying from the lack of quality of air from what's called greenhouse gas pollution. It's pollution, and it makes people sick and it kills them. That's a choice. It's our choice. The chemistry of the oceans are now changing faster than they have in millions of years. And millions of people are forced now to leave uninhabitable areas. The ocean is now facing, we know, the scourge of plastic pollution. It enters our waters. What happens? It breaks down. It becomes microplastics. And those microplastics get into fish and every other mammal in the water, and ultimately they get into us. It is said that in certain parts of the world where fish are vastly consumed, every human being there that eats a lot of fish or draws from the sea actually winds up putting in their bodies 1 credit card worth of plastic per week. A choice. We are facing the reality, my friends, that numbers of vessels are in the ocean. I won't name the countries, but they are backed by countries, and we have thousands, literally, more than 10,000 vessels plying the ocean estuaries, various bays, communities of our world, fishing illegally, strip mining the ocean. And that is why conferences like the Our Ocean Conference are so incredibly important, because it is a conference that is focused on action, not on talk. It's about real commitments and real solutions. And I say this to you, drawing your attention to one fact. All those things I just talked about that are happening, we are increasing our emissions even as we sit here today. Despite all the COPs, despite all the promises of Glasgow, of Sharm el-Sheikh, of years, we are increasing emissions still because business as usual is dominating the thinking of too many places in the world. It is important for us to recognize the result of that is that all the things I listed that are happening now that we witnessed last year may in fact be the best year we see in the next years until we actually reduce unabated emissions. My friends, we are nearing the 10-year anniversary of this conference. And looking back and taking stock, it is clear that these conferences have played a vital role and must play an even stronger role in affecting policy. Since we began in the Our Ocean Conference in 2014, we have now catalyzed more than 1,800 commitments, valued at more than $100 billion. That legacy is thanks to all of you, governments, philanthropies, non-governmental organizations, and companies, individual corporations that have come forward to do their part. Together, we have worked to create and enforce maritime protected areas. We've worked to create sustainable fisheries. We've worked to enhance maritime security. We've worked to implement ocean-based climate solutions, from green shipping to blue carbon. We have recognized publicly that if shipping were a country, it would be the 8th largest emitter in the world. And we are responding to that, and so are companies. Maersk, MSC, Yara, those companies are now ordering ships that are dual fuel capable, methanol. They are also ordering ships that will be carbon free because they're acting in a responsible way. And I think all of you should be incredibly proud of this work. It has had a tangible effect on improving our health and our security, but obviously there is still a lot more work to do. We simply have to acknowledge that we must accelerate the transition to a clean energy future. We must bring to scale those practices that we know will change and create the clean energy future. I can't stress this enough. There's no way for anybody to stress this enough, particularly in the face of the inaction and the distortion and the delay and the movement of disinformation on the internet and elsewhere that tries to pull people away from common sense. Folks, when you're digging yourself a hole, the first thing you do to get out is stop digging. We haven't done that yet, not with respect to this challenge. So the most important thing we can do for our ocean is call out major emitters that are not doing enough and countries that are impeding ambition to international fora, all the way from the UNFCCC through to the IMO. We also have to adapt to the different impacts that we see today, and we have to marshal enough finance to get the job done. No country in the world has enough money to do this transition by itself. We must have the private sector at the table. In this critical decade, every moment like this, every gathering like this, catalyzes and creates commitment and momentum. It provides an opportunity to transcend indifference and inaction. And I am confident that this, our Ocean Conference, is going to continue our legacy of success. For our part, the United States is highlighting 77 announcements from 8 agencies and offices valued at nearly $6 billion. This is more than double the commitments that we highlighted last year in terms of dollar value, and thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the most significant piece of climate legislation in our history, we will be doing even more. Our National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration is highlighting millions for ocean resource management and coastal resilience. Our Environmental Protection Agency, represented here, both of them, is highlighting millions to reduce plastic waste entering the marine environment. Our National Science Foundation, our National Aeronautic and Space Administration are highlighting millions in programs for climate science. And our U.S. Agency for International Development is highlighting millions to conserve biodiversity and improve management of marine protected areas. Our Coast Guard is highlighting millions to enhance maritime security and to counter illegal, unreported fishing. These are only a few examples, and since Panama has rightly underscored their priority on cooperation and joint action, let me just note that many of our collaborations that I just talked about, many of those things are collaborations with other countries and with non-state actors. Just today, for example, we are delighted to announce that both with Panama and with Fiji and the Pacific Blue Shipping Partnership, we are engaging in technical cooperation to help facilitate green shipping corridors in our regions. Looking ahead, I anticipate more successful conferences to come as Greece will take on this responsibility next year, and then the Republic of Korea, both of whom are here well represented, they will take on the baton. Throughout history, my friends, climate has shaped the rise and fall of civilizations. This is traceable through all of human history. And we have arrived at a pivotal moment in our own measurement of that responsibility against the history of our civilizations. The mission now is to get more serious, to come together, to double down, to pick up the pace, to implement real projects and deploy real money, which enables us to further enhance global ambition, hold everyone accountable, and build the security for the future that our citizens demand and have a right to. That is the task ahead of us, and I'm convinced, as I think you are, that those who join us in this fight are going to be on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kerry. Now I would like to invite His Excellency Surangel Whips, Head of States of Palau. I hope to pronounce it well, I'm sorry.
Good morning. Your Excellency, President Laurentino Cortizo Cohen, Honorable Minister Mencomo, Prime Minister Rabuka, my good friend Special Envoy Kerry, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor to be here this morning in Panama. And I bring warm greetings from Palau. You know, it took us 4 flights and more than 24 hours to get here. And it reminds us of how vast our ocean is. From Panama to Palau, it's 10,000 miles away. It is the ocean that connects us. And I want to thank our host for the most gracious welcome and really hospitality that you've shown and made us feel at home here in Panama. You know, some of the lessons we learned as host to our Oceans Conference this past year, I'd like to share. And I think the most important lesson that we learned is the importance of partnerships. And we have to say that without the partnership with our friend, Special Envoy Kerry and the United States, a small country like Palau, 20,000 people, being able to host the Our Ocean Conference would not have been made possible. It's that partnership's about being together, working together, and solving the climate crisis that we have. You know, we had to put together infrastructure. We had to get prepared. It took partners like Taiwan, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, along with the United States, and many others that help us bring that conference together. You know, I think our biggest challenge is to make sure that we're inclusive. We bring everybody together. And like Mr. Kerry said, for example, our partners of the oil-producing countries. I just had the opportunity recently to be in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and learn about their goals on expanding renewable energy and how they can help islands in the energy transition and make all of us energy producers and help us transition. Our Oceans Conferences are supposed to be about action and solution oriented. They should be about making announcements about meaningful and actionable commitments. But in order to have those meaningful and actionable commitments, we must be working together on an equal footing. And I say that because it's important that friends like the Republic of China, Taiwan, who have made valuable contributions in the areas of adaptation efforts, development of the blue economy, and for us helping recently in understanding the deep water and blue carbon. And like the young gentleman said, we don't know what's down there. We know less than what we know about the moon, but let's not go and start destroying it before we understand it. You know, last night at the beautiful museum that we had an opportunity to visit, the first thing that I saw when I went in is this beautiful aquarium. And inside the aquarium, I saw the surgeonfish. And in Palau, that's a very important fish to us because the surgeonfish are carved on all of our men's meeting houses, they demonstrate to us the symbol of unity. And that's because they graze alone, but when there is danger, they come together. And that's what we are doing here today. We're coming together to solve the climate crisis. And together means everyone being committed. We must deliver on those commitments. You know, the urgent goals that our governments need to address are protecting our oceans. And Palau, we have been so fortunate because our leadership has always believed in time immemorial about the importance of our oceans, about protecting it. We have an ancient practice called the bull, in which we say, we set off these areas to not touch and allow them to rejuvenate, revive, and so that we can continually fish them and use them sustainably from now into the future. So Palau, this last year, at the Our Oceans Conference, we launched our MSP process. That marine spatial process aims to balance productivity with protection and to study our entire EEZ using science, because that's what it is about, science, mathematics, to make the best decisions on how to make sure that what we're using, we're optimizing it for our children. The process is a multi-year, science-driven, stakeholder-led, inclusive process that's going to be transparent and define the appropriate conservation areas and to make sure that those are protected, to enhance the conservation and the marine biodiversity that we have, and to make sure that 100% of our oceans are managed. The MSA process is led by our Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and Environment, and the management which manages our Palau National Marine Sanctuary. Ultimately, we know that our goals ultimately is to provide for our people, not just now, but for in the future. The reason we are gathered here today is to solve these problems. And we also believe that if you don't solve the energy crisis or the energy transformation, you don't solve the ocean crisis. We suffer today from coral bleaching, from losing our jellyfish, because of warming oceans. We know that we have to be committed. So Palau is committed to transition to 100% renewables by 2032. Thank you. In April of this year, we will complete our first large-scale solar farm that will cover 20% of our energy needs. And we hope to increase that to 45% in 2025 and continue on that goal. But you know, that requires us to have strong partnerships, committed partners that will help small developing nations in this transition. International conferences like the Our Oceans here in Panama, the BBNJ negotiations that are happening in New York, COP25 that just finished in Montreal in December, are opportunities to look at synergies, to look at ways that we can meet those targets. And you know, the most importantly is we have to keep the momentum going. When I first met Special Envoy Kerry, he says, we must keep the momentum going from the UNGA to the COPs to the Our Oceans Conference and on and on and on. And I have to say, you know, I've only been a leader for 2 years, but I can see that the momentum is there and we must not give up the hope. We must work together, we must paddle together, we must stay together. Our ocean is our connection. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Surajel Bips. And finally, let's welcome Sitiveni Rabuka, Prime Minister of Fiji.
Good morning. Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, government officials, ladies and gentlemen. Honored to be here this morning. All the way from Fiji. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here on the far eastern edge of the Blue Pacific. I thank the young gentleman who spoke to us this morning, urging all of us to get up and go do something. We're here for 2 days, and I assure that young man for the other 363 days of this year, we will be doing something. I'd like to acknowledge the government and the people of the Republic of Panama for hosting the 8th Our Ocean Conference. I also wish to acknowledge the first peoples or traditional owners of this land. We thank the hosts for putting on that great show this morning that demonstrated to us the richness of the cultures of this great land. We're encouraged in Fiji to note the commitment of the government of Panama to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the undertaking to ratify the ILO Convention 169 on the rights of indigenous and tribal peoples. Please allow me to acknowledge and thank the United States State Department for the initiative to draw international attention to the serious threats facing the world's ocean and to commit to concrete action around the globe the support of marine conservation and sustainable development. The theme of our conference here today, Our Ocean, Our Connection, is to protect our ocean climate and the planet we live on. The 6 thematic areas vis-à-vis climate change, sustainable fisheries, sustainable blue economies, marine protected areas, marine security and marine pollution are not mutually exclusive. They are interdependent and must be addressed holistically rather than on individual or piecemeal basis or in isolation from each other. You may be aware that Fiji and our 17 neighboring Pacific countries carry the cultural and historical inheritance of ocean navigators, of peerless skills, and their courageous kin who crossed vast oceans, vast distances. They journeyed in mighty outrigger canoes, transporting up to more than 100 passengers and crew. Our forebears created unique, enduring civilizations in the islands and the atolls that they discovered and decided to settle on. They were at one with nature and the ocean. As custodians of what we call the Blue Pacific, we are united and ready to play our part to help planet Earth and ensure our collective survival. That is the very reason for our presence here at this Our Ocean Conference in Panama. Last week, I presided over a meeting of Pacific Island Forum leaders in Fiji. It is the premier political grouping of our region. It was attended by 18 Pacific leaders. The outcomes of the meeting recognizes that the ocean is central to our collective existence and our very survival. Our communique focused on the 2050 strategy that emphasizes preserving, protecting, and securing the ocean. As custodians and stewards, we must ensure that our people can continue to benefit from our resources through sustainable development. We, the small developing countries of the Pacific, can only shoulder that responsibility with the support of all our global partners, including our friends from Central and Southern America. As we heard this morning, a business-as-usual approach will render our nations uninhabitable and disrupt the livelihoods of millions, particularly the vulnerable and the poor. Our discussions here today and tomorrow must focus on reaching consensus to deepen global action, to reduce climate impacts on our oceans. Pacific SIDs have also come here in pursuit of innovative partnerships and ideas. I was watching a great container ship sailing across where I was sitting, and I feared. Those that come to Fiji are laden with previously used cars and vehicles. And we buy them. They're the only cars we can afford in our small family economies and finances. They've already been classified as no longer fit to be used on your roads in other parts of the world. They use too much fuel, oil, and lubricants. So you take them to the yards and they're bought by used car salesmen and transported all the way to our islands in the Pacific. And we buy them because you look good to be driving your own car. Your discards become our treasures. And what you save on, we destroy. We're here to talk about solutions. Solutions that are relevant and applicable to all our interests. Fiji has made some progress in creating space for sustainable investment in our blue economy to combat climate-induced development challenges in collaboration with the Global Fund for Coral Reefs and the United Nations Pacific Office. I thank His Excellency the President of Palau for bringing out a small ceremony we have in our island countries. We call it at home tambu also. It's when a chief decides that a certain part of our fishing ground or fishing right areas would be banned. We're not allowed to go and fish those areas because they notice depleting stocks of local fish So for a certain part of the year, and it's normally the breeding part, the breeding months for that kind of fish, that we ban fishing in those areas. They've been happening for centuries, even before people or man tried measuring the destruction of the environment, because it was part of life for them. They almost could count the fish and the various species that come out to the village shores. So they decide, we're getting less. Let's stop fishing in these areas because they breed between these months. It's for our survival. We didn't know anybody else was going through those problems. Now we know, and we would like to cooperate. Most important, Fiji is working in partnership with the private sector in Fiji to invest in reef conservation and regeneration. Some progress is being made in the implementation of our commitment to locally managed marine areas networks, LMMAs, to support sustainable income generation, but more still remains to be done. We are engaged in other frontiers to ensure sustainability and climate resilience. Despite limited resources available, our government has placed priority to resettle communities. We've had to settle communities. And very soon we will be settling others. Because the sea is eating into our villages. These are enormous challenges for us. Recognizing massive pressures on our domestic fish stock as caused by increasing sea surface temperatures, Fiji seeks to revitalize its aquaculture sector through public-private partnerships that support state-of-the-art hatchery facilities, targeted commercial and community-based projects, and the diversification of our export base using sustainable aquaculture. We're also working on establishing carbon-neutral energy sources, although at a very slow pace. This has been a tough path for Fiji due to technological limitation and lack of infrastructure. The support from both bilateral and multilateral partners present at this conference to co-finance our blue bond investments and provide credit guarantee solutions to help us access affordable ocean finance at near concessionary rates is necessary and much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, a decade since our first Oceans Conference, we are still struggling to meet our biodiversity, nature, and ocean protection commitments. Successes are few and very far between, but we must not give up. Despite our challenges, we will not give up. Our commitment and determination can only be achieved with more resources, more technical assistance, and a robust international legal framework for action in all spheres of ocean and environmental protection. It is through that partnership and commitment that we all can achieve what we want. Our collective ocean sustainability goals and enhancing our networking capabilities for that great purpose is achievable. It's achievable if we all cooperate. I wish all delegates a very successful Our Ocean Conference. God bless you all. God bless our host, Panama. Inauguración.